Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of Mocktail Minutes. This is Brianna. I'm doing a little bit I'm doing a different type of episode today. Next week, Bailey will be back. So we get to hear all about her new journey of motherhood is going, which I'm super excited for. But today is actually my birthday. So by the time you guys hear this, it'll be a little bit past my birthday. If you listen to it on the day it comes out, it'll be the day after. But I thought, you know what? Let's just do a quick, fun birthday episode of kind of things that I'm taking with me into this new year of my life. So I'm 34, which I feel like is an interesting age, like it's the age where when I'm at my kids' school, I'm still confused that I have three children. I don't know when that happened, but I still don't feel very much like an adult if I look around and I see the other parents. But then I go to like the junior high school, and I'm like, wow, I'm old. Right. So it's like this weird in between feeling, I guess, for me, but I'm excited to be 34. I really feel like your 30s is kind of where it's at. I'm hoping that your 40s is really where it's at. Right. But yeah, so I'm kind of sharing some things that I'm taking with me into this new year of life. But before I get started, I'm going to share what I'm drinking today. I am doing the Electrolytes Powder Plus. I get this on Amazon, which I feel like is a good option if you need something right away. It's relatively inexpensive and all the flavors are really good. I will say I am like the mango passion fruit flavor, and I've been dedicated to that, but I decided to try the watermelon, and it's so good. I think it's better than the mango, and I didn't think I would say that. So that's what I'm drinking today. I also added some trace mineral drops, some creatine, a little bit of extra Redmond sea salt, all the things to it. All right, but today let's jump in. So things that I'm doing in this next year of my life and really just trying to take with me for the rest of my life. So number one, prioritizing myself. This sounds silly, I know, and it sounds like a no-brainer, but I am someone that has a very hard time prioritizing myself, which seems like a contradiction because I spend the majority of my day speaking with clients, telling them how they need to prioritize themselves, but I realistically don't prioritize myself very much. And I don't know if it's just like being a dietitian. I feel like we all have very similar personality traits. We're all a little type A. And I feel like I'm type A, but not like a good type A. Like I'm the type A in my head, but like execution wise, I'm more of like a type B person. So it's hard for me to prioritize myself, but that's something I'm really trying to do this year. And I think it's just hard, especially with being a mom. I make sure all the boxes are checked for so many other people. But when it comes to me, it's kind of just something that I'm like, back burner, I can do later. So I'm really trying to take my own advice, prioritize myself, get intentional with it, and also get comfortable with it. Because to be honest, it doesn't feel comfortable. Sometimes it doesn't feel comfortable, like prioritizing yourself. So I've been listening to a lot of Lindsay Chambers' past trainings on just how to prioritize yourself. We have 2 episodes with her, but if you don't know who I'm talking about, look her up on Instagram. She has the best content. Number 2, increasing muscle. First of all, I've always loved lifting. I've been lifting for a while, but I will say, like, as I get a little bit older, I have noticed it is more difficult to build muscle if you're not being consistent. And this is something that's very important to me, especially as I'm, going to be heading into the next decade of my life. I really want to make sure that I get ahead of everything and I build and maintain as much lean muscle as I can. It is so good for your health. It's so good, going into menopause. It's just women need to be building more muscle. So I'm going to be consistent, more consistent than I'm being now. And I'm going to get strong. I think I'm actually for the first time going to really track like how much I can lift, and I'm going to set some goals, which I'm excited for. This next one, get outside more and do more movement that I enjoy. So I think sometimes we get really caught up with, oh, I have to do intentional exercise. I need to be lifting, or I need to do cardio, or I need to do like a specific class, or I need to do something. And we kind of forget that all the movement that we do from day to day is good. And so getting outside more and doing more intentional movement that I enjoy. So things like paddle boarding. I live in a beautiful area that has two gorgeous rivers that go through it. I really have no reason not to be doing these things. So paddle boarding, spending time with my kids outside, hiking, literally nature is my therapy. So getting out more, spending time outside, enjoying it. This next one is interesting, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions about it. And maybe I'll bring in my husband as a guest expert. He's an exercise physiologist. He's all things fitness. Really, we're like a power duo if we ever decided to listen to each other, but we don't. But anyways, he's kind of been getting into my head a little bit more about doing some more strategic type cardio. So I used to be someone that was like a cardio bunny, like catch me on the treadmill for an hour and a half at full speed every day of the week. And then I got very burnt out on that. My adrenals couldn't handle it anymore either. And I pulled way back on cardio. And I kind of have like a bad taste in my mouth about cardio, like probably because I tortured myself with it for a very long time. And so I'm trying to get back into doing some strategic cardio. So what I'm doing is called MIT, which is kind of like HIIT, but not. So it's medium intensity interval training instead of that high intensity interval training. And I'm not going to do a good job at explaining what it is, but he can. So maybe I'll bring him on. But finding more ways to be strategic about cardio, getting my cardio in a way that still supports my stress and my cortisol, but also prioritizing cardiovascular health. So I'm getting into that. The next one, it's a biggie. And you guys, it's really hard for me to admit this, but lowering inflammation and managing stress. So I am drilling this into my clients' heads, drilling it into their heads. We need to be managing stress. We need to lower inflammation. All the while, y'all, I'm walking around on fire. Okay. Literally. So if you are one of those people that are like, yeah, manage stress, I do. I highly recommend you do two things. I highly recommend you do an HTMA, which is a hair tissue mineral analysis, and you get your CRP blood drawn. Like it's CRP, it's a C-reactive protein. It's a measure of inflammation in the body. It's a quick blood test. Insurance usually covers it. If not, it's like I think $15 out of pocket. It's very inexpensive. But if you're someone who thinks you're not inflamed, you manage stress well, all these things, those two tests, you can't BS your way out of it. You cannot. So I know from getting some of these strategic testing done that I have high inflammation, and a lot of this is caused from not managing stress. So again, dietitian, I'm a mom of 3, I'm a business owner. I also have multiple other jobs because that's what I like to do. I like to just pile things on my plate. And I'm a huge, I like to tell people you can have the life that you enjoy. And if that means a high stress life, you can, as long as you are doing things to really manage that stress and make sure that under the hood, everything is running great. Okay. So I've always been someone who likes to run hot. I like to have a ton on my plate, like the perfect, like running off cortisol. I feel great doing that. But the older I get, my body is like, girl, you're on fire. Like, please stop. Like my body's like yelling at me, please give me a break. So I'm going to be very intentional about lowering inflammation. And really this is going to come from managing stress, because a lot of other things that I already do in my life are like, when typically I think about lowering inflammation, I'm like decrease alcohol, all this stuff. I do a pretty good job at those things. Again, it's still going to be intentional with them, but really my main one that I struggle with is managing stress. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of saying no, which is hard as a people pleaser, setting boundaries, learning just to really focus on the things that bring me joy and the things that make me feel good, and learning to manage all the other things that don't, because you have permission to do that. And again, I My husband is always like, what would you tell your clients? Like, I know it's great advice. I need to take it. And now I have some of these tests that I've taken that are like, yeah, you're stop BSing. You're not doing a great job at it. So that's a big one. The next one is I'm going to be ruthless with sleep, which I feel like this is something I have really improved on in the last 5 to 6 years, but really, especially as I'm getting older, really prioritizing 7 to 9, hopefully more like 8 to 9 hours of quality sleep a night. So having good sleep hygiene, really making sure that I'm getting up or going to sleep, getting up relatively around the same times. Like sleep is so important. And it's really important for the other things on my list. Like when I'm saying I want to increase muscle, when I'm saying I want to lower inflammation and help manage stress, sleep is a major one. And sleep is one I feel like is easily manipulated as long as you're not in a season of life where you have little babies. So catch me in my room with my white noise and my blackout curtains and my eye mask and my do not disturb. The next one, again, I feel like it's something I've already kind of been doing, but mocktails. I'm doing more mocktails this year. By that, I mean just decreasing alcohol. So I've already done a really good job of this. I'm not someone that drinks a lot of alcohol really, but just getting very intentional with like, is this serving me right now? You know, and there's going to be times where, you know, the occasional drink or cocktail, sure. But those like, you know, I feel like when I had my oldest is 11. And I feel like when he was little, it was the whole like mommy wine culture. Like, pour mommy a glass of wine, like they wine, I wine. It was very much like a coping mechanism of how to manage stress as a mom. And that was really normalized. And I think we're just all kind of growing out of that, which I feel like is great. Now, as I get older, I've slowly become into someone like, even if we're on vacation, it's a lot less than it usually was. And so for those clients that I have that are like, I just don't know if I could do that, I'm telling you, you can. All right, next thing. Again, it sounds simple, but we do not do it. Making time for play or scheduling in nothing. So when I think of this, I'm just like, how often do we kind of stop what we're doing? We go out and we go do something that just brings us joy, like something that has nothing behind it. Like it's not productive. Like maybe I want to do a puzzle, right? I don't know. Honestly, I think my life has just been on fire for the last 10 years of my life that I'm like desperate for anything that is like nothing. So puzzle sounds great. But you know, how often do you like schedule in time to like go read a book or go outside and just play with your kids or stop everything you're doing in the middle of like an evening routine and just go out and do something with your family for no good reason? It's not planned. You're not scratching things off your to-do list. I think that's very important. I think it helps us be present in the moment. I think it's going to really help me to enjoy my kids, and not like my kids are grown because they're not. They're 11, 9, and 5. But still, like I look back and I'm like, wow, that goes fast, you know? And I find myself already sad and missing the stage of life that they're in before it's over. And I think the best way to really combat that is to be intentional with my time with them and making time for fun. So doing more fun things as a family that doesn't need to have another agenda. We're not rushing here or there. We're just slowing down. Next is a big one. I'm sure my husband will appreciate it, but controlling my reaction to things. So I think a lot of times, and I think this comes with maturity and age, but we want to control how people see us, how they perceive us, and especially like being someone who's on the internet, and part of my profession is to be on the internet. I think it's hard, and we want to control like how are we perceived, and we overthink things. I think just learning that like I can control only my reaction to things, only how I perceive things. And that's the only thing I need to worry about. I don't need to be worried about other people's opinions. I don't need to be worried about other people's reactions. I don't need to be worried about any of it. I'm just controlling my own. And I really, again, like shout out to Lindsay. Again, this is like a really good nugget of hers is like, you can control how you react. How you react is like 1000% something you manipulate. So taking a pause, not letting things get to you. Again, this goes into like lowering inflammation and managing stress, right? I don't really consider myself a high strung person, but I think I internalize a lot of things because I'm like an overthinker. I have anxiety pretty easily, but from the outside, I do not. I get that all the time. People are like, oh, are you always so laid back and always so this? And I'm like, if you only knew the like spiral that goes on inside my head, you would not think that. But I think I do a very good job at like composing myself and internalizing it. And that's something I just kind of want to not do anymore. I want to control like my thoughts and how I think about something after it's happened and just learn to let it go. And the last one is disconnecting more. So if you haven't caught on by now, I'm doing a lot of things that Bailey and I are on here weekly telling you guys to do. But I will say, and I think this is what really is the magic of dietitians, is we really know how to help people apply these things to real life scenarios. Like you can know the science behind it, all of that. If you don't know how to teach somebody to apply it, it doesn't really matter. Right. And so this is me kind of telling you guys, like, I get it. I get that applying these things are hard, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm using all the strategies that I give you guys, and I'm going to actually apply it and make it work. So disconnecting more is very important. Again, it goes with everything on this list. It's going to help with all of that. I want to be intentional about my time, which means less time on my phone, less time doing work, less time doing a to-do list, more time doing nothing, which I think so many people struggle with. If you are someone who struggles with disconnecting and doing less and making time for nothing, and you are like a list person, someone who has like check it off, I would say put it on your to-do list. Literally put do nothing and give yourself a time, like 20 minutes of doing nothing a day, and put it on your to-do list so that you start to rewire your brain to think like this is a priority. It is something I have to do. And then slowly work on how to be disconnected during those times. So for me, this looks like quiet time. I'm probably going to be outside in nature. I'm not going to have a phone, no podcasts, no music, no multitasking. I'm helping myself with overwhelm by literally not doing anything while I'm doing my quiet, disconnected time. When is the last time you sat with yourself in complete silence? No distractions, no phone. It's a little uncomfortable, but I also think that that's where you grow a lot and you reflect and you kind of just come back to yourself, and it makes you reflect on like what's really important in your life. So these are my top 10 things that I'm taking with me into this next year of life. Hopefully you guys can apply some of these too. I think sometimes we're really hard on ourselves for not being able to do all of the things. So hopefully me on here telling you guys the things I need to work with, being vulnerable with you, things that I'm prioritizing this next year can kind of give you a little bit of motivation and realize like not everybody is perfect. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Next week, Bailey is going to be back, and I believe we're also going to have a guest. The next few episodes are going to be about postpartum and babies and motherhood and all of those things. Make sure you tune in. And as always, if you have questions, send us a DM. Bye, guys.